this is my first Instagram Live.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So
congratulations. We like our lives because they're filled with really great questions from people that follow you and follow us.
Amazing.
And so it's really good to be connected with you on this. I keep wanting, see, you always look comfy. You've got, what do you have, a pillow underneath? Is that Blue Couch? Are you on Blue Couch?
I'm on
So for everyone, our podcast with Tallulah has been released, it's launched, and we have a whole sort of section. We always talk to creatives about where they get creative, how they get creative, what sparks their creativity. And one of the things that we touch on the podcast is Tallulah's happy places for like where she can focus and work. And she was saying that she's not really like an office, sit at her desk kind of person. Surprise, surprise. I mean, but she's got this great couch that is comfy and cozy and helps her think big ideas and thoughts.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is where I imagine if I were doing an MTV Cribs.
Yes.
Where I would pause and say, this is where the magic happens.
Right. And this is where it all goes down. You actually say that in the podcast. You're like, you'll read it. It's like, all my big ideas happen on Blue Couch.
On Blue Couch. I'm like a bit ashamed to show it in its full, but I will show you guys.
Let's see. Good, because we actually have a question. Oh,
it's like a pit. It's like a giant, there's all these blankies, but it's like a giant pit of coziness.
Well, people will tell you, like I have something, I told you this too, I have something somewhat similar in my space. Mm-hmm. Yours is like configured totally like this giant bed, but mine is a sectional in the same vein. I totally get it.
It's funny. It's like ruined me for other people's houses because I'm so comfortable.
Yeah, you can't get comfortable, right?
I can't get comfy anywhere else. And it's getting a little cold in LA. Yeah. So I'm sure it's not as chilly as on the East Coast, but I've set up like a little mini space heater next to Blue Couch.
Oh, love it.
And I got this, like, it's just so, the idiosyncrasies, but I got this, like, 7-foot phone charger from Amazon. So I just have, like, everything potted.
I know. I get it. I have to plug in my laptop charger. I've got, right, when you get it all staked out.
It's all dialed in, and I'm like, I'll just, I do all the things.
I know. I get it.
There we do it.
Do people call you T? I keep like wanting to call you T because I guess our names are similar and people call me T. I keep wanting to be like, hey, T.
Feel free, please. I get a variety. Guys, this is what's happening right now. So you can see what's going on.
I knew it. I go, this has to be the dogs.
This is the dogs going crazy.
Love it.
So I go by T, Lula, obviously Booski. But yeah, I'm rarely a Tallulah. It's a 3-syllable name, which you think isn't a big deal, but it's heavy in the mouth.
It is. I think that's the point. People are always shortening my name. It's 3 syllables. You're right. We did get a question though, Tallulah, that where did you adopt Blue Couch? Somebody had asked.
So Blue Couch has been a project over a couple years. I got 2 pieces for Christmas 5 years ago from my parents from Restoration Hardware. And I had 2 end pieces. And I just kept, because it's modular. So for a person with a crazy creative, like a brain like me, I was like, well, what, how can we do this? And I kept looking on the website and, they have all the different configurations. And I was like, well, I wonder, I'd not seen it done in the square. And I was like, well, that would be so good if we could make this work. So with some time, because it takes, with Restoration Hardware, it took like 4 months to get the pieces after I ordered them. And I'm such an impatient person that I almost was like, I waited another 4 months to finally order it. Do you know what I mean? Like I was so
completely
that it took so long that instead of just doing it,
yeah,
I just like waited because such an instant gratification person. Like I love things happening as soon as possible.
We talk about that on the podcast as well. We
Yes.
definitely get into that. You were talking about your name, and you were talking about all the iterations of your name. I know that your boyfriend Dylan calls you Lula. I bring up Dylan because he shot, surprise, surprise, Tallulah is our next cover star. So after the podcast is launched, you're going to see our next cover spread, and it was shot by Dylan Bust, your boyfriend.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, we talk a little bit about this on the podcast, but what was it like shooting with him? And you talk a little bit about how he helps you find your best light. And, you know, he and I spoke too about, like, you know, he knows how to capture all the looks from you. What's it like shooting with him, and how you guys do a lot of shooting just on Instagram, but how many shoots have you done?
So this was our first like official.
I love it.
Shoot. So we've done, you know, like he's done a few photos of me, like when we were in Idaho, just like kind of playing around, and then obviously like you know, taking some phone photos on different vacations and such. But this was our first kind of real, like he had his like work brain on, you know, like he was in the business.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I don't know, like I've seen his work before, you know, and I always, you know, was like, wow, I love the way you work. I thought he was so talented. But it's hard because, hi baby, thank you. You know, I struggle with, like, I'm such an oxymoron because I love photo shoots, but I'm very, I have insecurities, and I have lapses in confidence, and so it's always kind of a 50-50 ebb and flow, even like within the shoot. Like one shoot you feel like amazing, and then the next one, and
wow,
it, you know, interesting because obviously I shaved my head in quarantine, and so I have the not ideal hair that I would want for myself.
Well, I have to say, you know, your hair in these photos is one of the things I love. I just love the way your hair looks in our cover spread. It looks great, especially on the actual cover on the homepage. You'll see it's just beautiful, really sleek and really pretty, and it worked well in the environment for some reason. And with the clothes, it was just, I thought your hair like really was like, whoa.
Thank you. No, I mean, I think it totally, you know, we pulled it off. I think it totally played. And, you know, I think, but, you know, but exactly to your point, almost like you have your perception of yourself that someone can try to write it or change it or compliment you, but you have these certain narratives, certain thoughts in yourself. And I think that when shooting with Dill, like, I know how much he loves me. And so to feel that love and care coming from someone trying to capture you, it was interesting because it was less for me about, okay, shot and let me look good. And it was more about, I wanted to see where he saw me. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Well, no, it's true collaboration. You know, true collaboration with two people that are in sync in a number of ways, right? So
absolutely. And he's also walked with me and seen, like, the clothes we were shooting, the development phase of all of them. So he's seen these pieces come to life and see what they've done for me and how much I poured into them. And so it was really kind of a beautiful merging together of so many different facets. And, you know, to be in this amazing location that was recommended to me, friends never been there before, and there was so much to explore and so much to play with. And he's just, you know, he's such a trooper. And one of the things that made me fall in love with him was that he is such positive energy. And I feel like no matter what, like on set, just have someone who's like, let's just like get the you know what I mean?
I mean, we talk about that all the time. You know, I've been working on shoots for so many years. I'm not going to say how many, but and you know, and I've been having a lot of these conversations recently, especially on our podcast with you know, hair people that have been doing this for years, and stylists that have been doing this, and makeup people that have been doing this for years. The, you know, the emotions that happen on set, the vibe, the mentality, the psychology of a bunch of people sort of working together, and how that either works or doesn't work. It's a huge part of making beautiful pictures, you know, and or
Absolutely.
not making beautiful pictures.
No, 100%. And, you know, it was funny because it was kind of very like, we just kind of packed up the car, had a bag of clothes. I had a friend with me who I actually went to high school with, who was able to come help us do some styling assistant stuff. But I had these, like, at one point, these Simon Miller platforms on that are like 4-inch go-go boots.
Right. I mean, we love that, but
we were trying to get the last shot, and it was the sun was going down, and we knew we wanted to get to this kind of like reservoir, and that's where we got, I think, the cover shot. And so we were like kind of running, and I was like in these, and I was like, oh, we have no time to take the boots off, let's just stay in the boots. So I'm like running through the marshlands in these platform boots, like all of us, like Dylan just carrying all his camera equipment. Like, it was such a scene. You know
so
what I
fun.
mean?
Yeah,
it was
no,
so
it's
fun.
I know. I wish there was somebody there capturing that BTS. We have some BTS of you on set that Dylan shot, but that's the fun stuff. That's the cool stuff.
Well, that's kind of the in-between moments where you're like, everyone kind of just laughs, and at one point, you know, there was a guy walking by, and he must have just been on, you know, doing a little nature jaunt, and I was like, what do you think is going on right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like tell the story of that. Who's this guy and what's his story?
Yeah, like, what are you doing here? It was like, what do you think we're doing? Like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, I think there's a real, like, some people are very uncomfortable taking selfies in public.
We're going to get to that, actually, because there's a question for you about that. But
okay.
Yeah, please share.
No, I was just going to say that, like, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, doing a photo shoot not in a studio or where other people can see you is very, very vulnerable, you know, because you're trying to get into your power, into your core, like, fierce, like, power stance, and then there's someone watching you or seeing you, and it kind of takes you out of it, and you're like, should I be embarrassed? Should I not be embarrassed? Like, where does this feeling come from? And I get into, like, being caught taking selfies in public, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think if you're feeling lighting is good, like, I'm someone who's like, you know, don't let the moment pass. Might as well get the shot.
That's the beautiful part of Instagram, right? I mean, you're able to capture these great moments when they happen, and you have, you know, this like pictorial display of the things that you've experienced. But that's really why when we knew that Dylan was going to do this with you, that is exactly what I envisioned. I envisioned two people who each have their own creative eye, who are used to collaborating with one another. And, you know, you have a clothing line, and what happens when two people get in the car with a bag of clothes and go out into a beautiful location. And I think that the photos really tell that story.
I agree. I think that they came out really beautiful, and I think that it's just kind of such, guys, oh my gosh, it's such an, and do you hear this?
They want to contribute to the conversation.
They want to contribute. I think it really came out, guys, I think it really came out beautiful, and I think it really spoke to let me go in the other room. They seem to be wanting to engage on the blue couch, just so I can.
They like what you're saying.
They like what I'm saying.
They agree. They agree with you.
They're going to follow me now. No, guys, I came in here so you could leave. Sorry, one second. Guys, out. Let's go. Come on, babies. Let's go. Thank you. Okay. All right. No, so I think we achieved what we set out to do. I think that back to one other pillow, of course.
Yeah, back to another cozy nook.
And I just think that it inspired me to want to do more with him. You know, I've always loved chronicling. my life in photos. You know, I think that there's just something that I really mourn about film photography not being the standard. And as much as I love the instantness of iPhone and Instagram, you know, I'm always like, you know, hoping. And Dylan and I have a Contax T2 that I got for Christmas a couple of years ago, and Dylan and I share it. And, you know, we try to take as many photos as we can of like our life. I mean, it's been quarantine we started dating a month and a half before quarantine. So we have,
Oh, see, I didn't realize it was just a month and a half. And
yeah,
that's like the sweet spot, I have to say. Like that 6-week mark is a pretty major moment, right?
it is definitely very major. And we, you know, and then we went to Idaho with my family.
Major as well.
Major,
Fun
very
and major.
in our relationship. And but I love just the idea of, you know, I'll come across photos of my parents, like hard copy real photos, and there's just something so magical about that.
Okay, now I have to ask you, so are there like even, I mean, of course, hard copy real photos, but are there Polaroids like laying around in boxes, like from set and from,
I
Annie Leibovitz and
Oh, we have
yeah.
thousands, especially in Idaho. There was like a box of photos one day, and I was going through it, and I found a Polaroid of my mom and Andy Warhol, and I was like,
Where do you go from there?
what am I supposed to like do with this? Like, I was
Yeah.
like, frame this? Like, why is this in a bin of photos?
Did you say anything about it? Did you say
Yeah,
like we?
was like, I took a photo on my phone. I was like waving it around. I was like, what do we do with this? I mean, I put it back in the box because my
Of
mom's
course.
very particular. So even though I think it looks like it's just in a box, she'll know like exactly which box on which shelf, which
I
photo.
love that.
She has that brain,
She's a
and
collector, right?
such
She's
a
a self-professed hoarder and collector. She talks
yeah,
about that.
yes,
You talked about it on the podcast.
yes.
And she has a collection of a lot of great things. I cannot believe you found like a Polaroid of, of her and Andy Warhol. It's like that is like poster child for what a Polaroid is. It's like an
Oh
Andy
my God,
Warhol
100%. That like
Yeah.
is the Polaroid.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, and I've definitely, you know, you potentially, not everyone, but I do find that I'm becoming my mother in the most complimentary way, you know.
Yes.
She loves,
Especially we talk about this, not to cut you off, but you just reminded me of something about the podcast and what we talked about the podcast. I was just going to say, you said you're sort of evolving to be a lot like your mother. And I'm like, especially with this fashion journey that you're on now, right? That's like, whoa.
I mean, I think that, and she's been so supportive and collaborative with my designs, and, you know, like a lot of the pieces that are, because all the pieces are really based on vintage reference pieces, come from her collection, you know.
Yeah.
So she plays a really big part in all of this. And in all the aspects of myself, you know, I think that I really draw from her. She's even, I think, at this point in her life now still exploring and coming into herself creatively, which is so
Yes.
inspiring for me, because I think you can get really hung up on, I didn't figure it out soon enough, you know, or I was supposed to figure, I mean, and that I do sort of always have a bit of a bone to pick sometimes with the energy around school and college, and like you got to have it locked in, you
The
know,
societal norms of what needs to be accomplished and when it
of
needs to
what
be accomplished.
you have to do. And I'm a kid, you know, I didn't go to college. I it was a couple, you know, bumps in the road to get me to kind of where I knew I wanted to be, and there was a lot of insecurity around that, to kind of figure out what I hope to be my life path at 26. But even that is so young, you know. And I have to remember that, like, and that's what I mean is we have a friend who is now 102. Her name is Alona. Alona Royce Smithkin. She lives in Provincetown. And she was in this documentary called Advanced Style. And it's a wonderful documentary if you haven't seen it. It's all about
Okay.
women over 60 and, you know, like them, maybe even over 70 and their fashion. It's really inspiring. And
It sounds beautiful.
one of the people that we most connected to from this documentary was Alona. And so we got to meet her and we were friends with her. And I visited her while I was in Cape Cod, and we went to Provincetown. And what her mantra always is just like, I'm still figuring it out. I'm still seeing who I am. And it's so inspiring to hear that when I'm 102 years old. And
I think that's true. I think that's often forgotten, but I think a lot of us, you know, everyone feels that way. A lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us feel that way about the way that we move through life. And I think that, to your point, I think a lot of it is changing. I think when to go to college is that's changing. When to have a baby in life, that's changing. When to stop working, or how, you know, I think all of that is changing. You know,
I mean, and I do think it's important to note that being someone who has the privilege to explore my creativity as my main focus, that is something that is not accessible to everyone. And I know that, you know, and I know that some people have different elements to their life and different constraints. And I am really, really aware of the gift that I'm able to just explore my creativity. And I think that my point earlier was more so that I felt this pressure for so many years of, I need to figure it out and I need to figure out what I'm doing. And I think that people who are creatively impassioned, you know, who need that, I look at it as kind of frenzied energy. Like, I operate in like chaos and I love it. Like, that is, I don't want to be still. Like, that's how I go forward. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought with that, but I think my point is just that, you know, to be a creative, finding your niche is really, really freeing. But I know that not everyone can just follow their.
Yeah. Let's actually, we have 12 questions for Tallulah Willis, but we talked a little bit about photo taking. So I'm going to skip to those questions, and let's ask those questions first. There were two. One is about a particular photo from Jennifer. A couple of months ago, you got a lot of attention for posting your bare ass on Instagram. What is the story behind that shot?
Oh my God. So I had just come back from Cape Cod, and my living room, I was like, I came home and I was like, I hate it. I hate how it's arranged. So I let my good friend Soph borrow my entire living room setup, and I had gotten some new pieces. And so me and Rumor were rearranging my whole living room, and it got really sweaty, and I was in a slip dress, and I have a little cutout in front of my fireplace, and I have a little tiny rat doll, and like I have a miniature little like living room set up. And so I was like, I had tucked in my dress into my panties, and I was rearranging the little rat, and Rumor was like, oh my God, your butt looks amazing right now. Photo. And I was like,
I mean, that's literally because it did. It was like it was like a painting of one. It was perfect. And only a sister knows that. Like,
would know
a sister can point that out.
And I'm just like, sometimes I feel like I'm a little naive or a little bit maybe ignorant to like what those, like, I just look at it as like a cute, cheeky photo. Like, I thought it was really funny. Like, my butt just looked really cute, you know, but people were, there was a lot of feelings about the butt, you know, and I kind of at a place in my life where I kind of just try to take that in stride. Like, I've been comfortable with certain elements of like nudity and nakedness and being free. Like, I don't look at it as much as like a scandalized or a big deal. And I think that comes out in a lot of my internet presence, you know?
Yes, I was going to say that, even, there's another question here from Lainey in this sort of in the same vein that I want to feel more comfortable posting freely on Instagram, and you're so good at it. And she's looking for thoughts and for help. And it's very true. There is something, even in this conversation and the way that we're having this conversation, even in the way that we had our, podcast conversation over Zoom, like you do have sort of a comfortableness with yourself. And so Lainey's asking your thoughts on that. She wants to feel more comfortable. She wants to grab some of your secret sauce there. She wants thoughts or help.
So I think that, part of it came from the fact that just generationally, my mom brought us up to be very private, to be very protective of our family. And I kind of interpreted that and swung the pendulum the other way and felt like that was very restrictive. And I know that the place she was coming from was really loving and caring and positive, but I always felt like, well, I want to be transparent, and so that always pushed me very vocally to be transparent. But in terms of like posting and photos, like what I found to be the most healing was I felt like for a long time I could walk into a room and like energetically apologize for being there and apologize for taking up space and apologize for existing. And over the past years, particularly in my healing and my sobriety, I've been able to look at that piece a little more and own the kind of energy that I take out in the world and the place I have in the world. Stop apologizing, and especially with the nature of Instagram, if you don't like something, literally a button to unsee it. Like you can unfollow it. And so to feel like I was doing it for myself, that I wasn't doing it for other people, like particularly when I was coming like in my early 20s, people that I had on my page were people from high school, like not friends from high school, but just like people like school who some people intimidated by, some people I remember being, I felt really small when
having feelings about,
and so I remember that it was kind of like, oh well, it's embarrassing, like I don't want to seem like I'm too into myself, and something kind of shifted for me where I was like, I was sort of communicated to that ego was bad, that in its entirety, ego is bad. And the self-confidence, self-assurance was bad. And actually the socially acceptable was to feel bad about yourself and to be deprecating. And to, if you're going to post a really pretty photo of yourself or a photo that you like the way you look, the caption has to be really self-deprecating. Right. Something that makes it justifiable when really it's okay to feel good sometimes. There's a time and a place and an appropriate time to put that out there in the world and being mindful of that. But I just kind of got to a point where I was like, I have enough days where I feel good. If I feel okay in this moment, in this photo, like I don't give a shit. Like I
think
I would like
it's pretty incredible how that pendulum swung back in this direction because you're creating beautiful things. Kara asked that she said that she struggles with anxiety and depression and would love to hear more from you. Do you have plans for speaking engagements or a book on that subject?
Gosh, speaking engagements most likely would be on pause given
given the fact that no one can gather anywhere. But I could see that. I can see you speaking at a conference. Have you done any of that at all?
I think maybe. Haven't. I mean, I've spoken at some AA meetings. That's pretty much the realm. But I was invited to do something on mental health, but it just didn't pan out. I mean, I would love to and would be open to. I mean, I've kind of toyed with the idea of writing. I love writing, and doing a book at some point. I mean, the way that I perceive it is less that I know how to fix it and more that my life has allowed me access to a lot of different healing from therapists and psychiatrists and mental health councilmen, not the word, but you know what I mean. people, as well as, some deeper woo-woo healing stuff. And I just wanted to act as a conduit, take all that I've learned through the access I have in my life, and give back to people who don't have that access or the tools that have helped me. Because I think that healing, particularly with depression and anxiety, is really so personal, and what helps you doesn't help me. And that's why some people, it can be really difficult. Like, I know that I really struggled in my depression in early quarantine, as a lot of people did. And a lot of the people close to me at the time were really encouraging me to go out, get exercise, read a book, go for a walk. And all of those things at that time were genuinely very difficult for me. I was unable to do that. And I think that there was a part of it where I just had to be in the moment. But
Yeah.
it was very hard because they were trying to help, and maybe that is how they help themselves, and maybe that's how they get healing. But my particular type of healing sometimes just comes from like quietness and like sitting with myself and like an internal process.
Yeah.
um
I think that and we talk about this in our interview a little bit as well. There's something to be said for, not feeling like you have to be doing these 6 things to help yourself. It's an already stressful time, and
right,
maybe the solution is to sort of maybe not think so much about what to do and how to do it, right?
right. And just kind of, be, I mean, the concept of being present consistently eludes me. I'm still not good at it. I'm
Yeah.
always trying, disassociation and fantasy brain and pivoting from my body and just going in other directions. And, there can be kind of dangerous behaviors that fall from that. And that's excluding even like drinking, like even just being on my phone. Like during
Right.
that time, I was very, very addicted and codependent with my phone and the internet, not even social media, but like anything on the internet. Like I just needed a fix of like, there was one day I was like, I want to do that gelled eye wet dewy look. And
Oh,
so,
I love the glossy eye.
oh,
Sorry. Side note to the
side note, love
glossy
a
eye.
black guy. And
Do you
so
have the
like
Kevin O'Quinn eye gloss?
I did this other one, I can't remember the name of it. I did like so many different avenues on the internet to figure out the best one.
Oh,
The Kevin Aquan was like on the list, but I got
good.
the pen that's like already tinted with berry color. It's very cute.
Oh boy, I need to find out what that is, or
I'll,
maybe
I
we,
can
we
send
can.
you, I'll send you a photo of it. And,
Okay, good. We'll
but I
publish it.
got lost in the sauce. I got lost in like how much I needed in that. Like that was the only thing kind of that I could cling to in that moment. And
I
so,
think for a lot of people, like, the internet was this way of being connected,
mhm.
right? I don't know.
I mean, I
I love
think,
that, lost in the sauce.
no, but I think that it was kind of like, it was very traumatizing for everyone going through it, people that were directly affected, that had lost somebody, that had someone sick, that were just, to be someone. I do believe that a lot of the time being an empath or being empathetic goes hand in hand with anxiety and depression, or can have an effect on someone's anxiety and depression. And even in that time, I know that being so compassionate and being an empath, it was hard to feel the weight of pain around the world.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was my, yeah, piece to digest. It's no one's fault. No one was doing it to me, but I had to take ownership. The best advice I can give is that I had to take ownership exactly where I was at. And I found that finding people around me that can accept me exactly where I'm at is so helpful. And if I can't find that, to do things like take a bath for 4 hours if you can, for 3, you know what I mean? Like take a minute, if it's taking a walk, if you just need that moment, either finding safe people, and if you don't have access to safe people, like finding it within yourself, and then writing. Like I found a lot of freedom in like writing what I was feeling, and kind of coming out in this half poetry, half, free form garble that was just like, I'm trying to understand what's happening to me. And that's how I kind of my anxiety and depression, is like how do I interpret this? I do it through my art. I do it through, sometimes it's through Instagram, sometimes it's through connecting with people on a bigger scale, and people, I'm continually shocked at how people respond every time I've gotten really deep about what I feel, because when I was younger, particularly in high school, I genuinely thought I was the only one that felt this way. I didn't understand that other people also felt this way. Maybe it was a different time. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have access to like information that was like connecting people about, hey, I also feel this way too. And it was quite lonely and very scary. And so I always try to be an advocate of just like transparency with where I'm at, because I'm not linear and I'm not fixed and I'm not done. My depression goes up and down, and I'm very gratefully properly medicated on something that works for me. I know medication doesn't work for everybody. But I'm still also always seeking the ways to help,
Yeah. We
Sometimes.
actually, what were you saying?
Oh, no. Continue. What were you going to say?
No, I was thinking about this another question that we have from Annie, sort of might be along the same lines, because she notices that you love animals like she does, and she's a friend of a friend. She said Tamara told me about Pet Freak, and she wants you to talk a little bit more about that. But I think about animals and healing, as we're talking about healing and tough times. And
I mean, my baby animals are, I always loved animals my whole life. We grew up with dogs. I always feel like if I had gone a little more conventionally, I would have gone to like veterinary school or something, or like, I've always resonated with animals, particularly like, you know, like lemurs and sloths and like weird animals with really big eyes. Like, I love that they felt like something out of a Jim Henson movie,
right,
real, and they exist. And on my 21st birthday, my mom took me and my sister to a sloth commune in Costa Rica.
that is incredible.
It was an amazing birthday, and we got to meet and see baby sloths. And it was like one of the most overwhelming experiences, because like I wanted to cry, I wanted to take photos, I also wanted to be in the moment. Like I literally had a baby sloth like on my chest, and I was just like, what is this space pig on my body? Oh, not everyone can have a baby sloth around them all the time. So I think the closest we have are like pets. And so I'm just such an advocate and firm believer in the healing power of animals. Like when I was in the deepest part of my depression, if I didn't have my dog, I I wouldn't have had a reason to get out of bed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that sweet animal, like, he just laid with me in bed while I was like processing what I was going through. But getting up, taking him outside, feeding him, like that was enough that I had to just like get through the day with that. And it takes you out of yourself a little bit. I also think that it's something that is a lot of responsibility, and
Absolutely.
people jump into it quickly. And I've learned so much being a pet owner, but like I'm obsessed with like animals in
And that's
general.
what Pet Freak is all about?
So Pet Freak was born. I'm kind of on pause with Pet Freak right now because I got a little overwhelmed, truthfully, because I was just like, I'm such a full steam ahead person that
Well,
like
it's an Instagram account. It's like a whole separate, I mean, that's a lot of work. It's a whole separate thing. You have an Instagram handle called The Pet Freak.
I do. And I think that the problem was, and what I'm figuring out now is I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I just was sort of like going on the fly. And and that, nothing was compromised with any of the animals I worked with. Everyone was safe and fine. But in
Of
terms
course.
of anxiety and the stress and the work that I was putting on myself without having any clear idea of what was going on, and no one was really helping. I had some people helping foster, but it was all my responsibility. And so it just went 0 to 60. And Dylan, you know, when he was here, he'd be laughing because he's like, this is exactly what you do. You know, you start something and you give it like everything you have, and then you can burn out, you know.
And then you can get drained. Yeah.
At that, I literally felt my like vitality start to fade because I was like, and then I had this stuff coming up and I was like, oh my God. But the whole point of Pet Freak was I just love matching people with dogs. I love helping people on their journey of finding their companion, you know, because I love my companion so much. And, you know, but it's interesting because, you know, and this is definitely something that is hard on social media, and I definitely want to be transparent about it. But, you know, I've had to rehome dogs, and as someone who's like very publicly an animal lover, I've gotten some interesting feedback from that. But what I've found in my experience is like I don't go to get in the way of what's best for an animal, and some animals just do better in different scenarios. You know, it was like post about an animal, and I'm like, dogs, you know, and then people are like, where did that go? And then you feel like you have to justify, you feel like you have to explain yourself, you feel like, you know, you owe people an explanation. And so I battled with that a little bit because I didn't want to be judged, you know. And that's just,
well, you'll stick a pin and maybe you'll revisit, you'll figure it out.
Exactly.
We have some questions about Willis before we wrap. And I'm curious about this one too. Karen, are there plans for a Willis pop-up after the pandemic blows over? Have you and the team discussed pop-up shops? I know, you know, there's not necessarily an interest in brick and mortar, but a pop-up feels very on brand for you. I think
that's definitely in our future. I think depending on where the world goes and access to storefronts, that would be really exciting and something that I would be thrilled to do.
Couple more questions. What's it like working with InstaSteak as your brand manager? I mean, give me like 3 words. Can we do like a quick 3 words on
a quickie?
Rachel Finley?
She's a warrior, she's a goddess, and she's like the best teacher I could ever have.
Perfect. And then we have, which Willis pieces do your friends, sister, and mother wear most?
Probably
do you like pieces that your friends and people in your circle gravitate toward?
Probably our Leonard pant and our sweatsuit that we came out with. My mom, I will FaceTime her and she'll be wearing it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute.
Oh, that's so cute. That's like such a FaceTime outfit, right? A little sweatsuit at home. Randy, last question, Randy. I wonder if you're thinking about this. What are your wishes or resolutions for next year? Are you thinking ahead in that way?
I mean, big picture, I hope we move through this. I hope that as a world we can heal and start the healing process. For me personally, I hope that I can just go and continue to go a little bit deeper on my self-love, because there's always room for more.
There you go. All right, Tallulah, thanks for this. And episode 55 of the podcast is released into the universe. Everybody listen to it and stay tuned, because our cover story is launching very, very soon. So there's more there. There's more on some things that Tallulah loves. There's the full interview, and of course the spread that was shot by Dylan. Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone.
Anytime.
This was so much fun.
It was fun. I love that we're your first Instagram Live. I love that.
I love it.
And I love that we're your first Dylan Tallulah spread.
Many firsts, and maybe we can do this again sometime. I would
love that. We should do it. We should definitely do it again.
All right. Perfect.
Bye.